Hi crafters, it's Chloe from Chloe's Creative Cards, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create this lovely Christmas tree card, which is one of Christine's, but I knew as soon as we popped this one up on Facebook, everyone would ask how to do the tree. So I thought that I would do a little demo showing you how to recreate this lovely project at home. So today we're going to be using our Christmas tree 3D embossing folder and die set. We're also going to be using the Poinsettia 3D embossing folder, stamp and die, and some other bits and pieces as well. So as always, all of the products that I'm using are listed in the little description below. So please do have a look, and I've linked everything as well, and you can shop all of the products that I'm using today on our website at www.chloescreativecards.co.uk. So I'll pop the overhead camera in and we will get started. So we're going to start off with an 8x8 card blank, which I've got here, okay. And then I've also got a piece of gold mirror card, which I've just trimmed down to about 7 3/4 inches square to fit on the front. I've then got a piece of this lovely Christmas tree paper, which is from our Gilded Christmas paper pad. We're going to do a little bit of edging on this one though first with a little bit of Gilded glitter. So a little bit different edging in gold, but it's a nice little technique for Christmas, I think, adding that extra little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to grab my scrap paper in, ready to work on. And we're going to take a chisel tip glue pen. Okay, and we're going to just drag that glue pen along the edge of the paper. If you drag it towards yourself and hold it at about a 45-degree angle, that will help to keep that line nice and straight. I'm going to just pop my glitter over there on the paper. Okay, then we're going to do the same on this one. Drag that pen towards you. I'm going to just take this off camera just to dunk into my lovely glitter, and then we'll do the same here. And the same here. So the glue pens are strong enough for holding your finer glitters, but they're not strong enough for holding your chunky glitters, okay? Which is why we're using Gilded, which is a finer glitter on this one. So I'm going to pop that to one side. Okay, and then next up we're going to start and get this stuck together. So we're going to take our base card. I'm going to take a little bit of glue. I'm going to get my mirror card stuck down. And again, you can use whatever you prefer for your mats and layers. I like a glue, so then if I don't get it stuck down quite right, it does then give me that little bit of time to kind of manoeuvre and shuffle it around a little bit. And then next up, we're going to stick this patterned piece on with some foam pads. So let me just grab my foam pads in. And these are, of course, from our foam pads on a roll, which are fabulous. So we're going to just pop these down onto here, like so. And then I'll take the backs. There, and then we're going to stick this down just onto our base card there. Okay, and then next up I'm going to take our Gilded square dies, and I'm also going to grab in some crystal white pearl card. So I'm just going to grab a sheet of that. And we're going to die cut out one of the lovely Gilded squares. So we're going to use, I think it might be, it's that one. Yep, so the second size in. Okay, so we're going to pop that down onto our piece of card, and we'll pop a little bit of tape just to hold this in place. And we're going to send that through our die cutting machine. So for this, I'm going to use my base plate, my plastic shim, and my cutting plate on the top. Okay, and through that goes. And then we can grab that at the other side and bring that back in when that is finished. There we go. Okay. So when we lift that out, we've got that lovely die cut gilded square. Okay. And we've got that ready to go onto our card. So what these dies have, and I'll hold it up so hopefully you can see. Can you see how it's got a little kind of deboss around the edge? So that in effect gives you like a little tram line to follow. So if you've got something like a Sakura quickie glue pen, or in my case, I've just been using a Sakura glaze pen because our quickie ones haven't come yet. You can go in with your pen and it kind of just slots in that gap, and then you can take your glitter. So I'm going to go for a little bit of Dulce de Lec, I think, on this one. Oh, yeah, a bit of Dulce de Lec. So we'll sprinkle that over. Oh, it's dried by the time I decided there. Let's do that again. So we're going to take our glue pen, pop it into that little tram line, drag it down. Okay. And then you just want to do a little section at a time. I am actually using the Sakura glaze pen as well, rather than a glue pen, because like I say, our glue pens haven't arrived yet. But it does kind of the same job. So just do a small section at a time. Or if you prefer, you can use your dries clear PVA glue with the fine tip, but the pen is definitely a little bit easier. So, see, in that groove, you can kind of just follow along. Like that. And then do that little bit as well. And just keep going. Like that. And do the same just along here. And then just in there. And that then gives you that lovely glittery border just going around the edge. So pop that back into the jar there. Okay, and then again, I'm going to take some foam pads and stick that onto my card blank. And again, I know I use a lot of foam pads, and I like to add quite a bit of depth and dimension to my project. But if you want to make these flatter for posting, of course you can do that as well. You don't have to add as much dimension as I am. I'm just here to give you some ideas and inspiration. But then you can always just put your own spin on it. You don't have to kind of copy exactly what we do. And I think that's the fun of crafting. And I know when we are prepping demos and things, that it's very rare that things turn out exactly the same twice. Because I'm always like, oh, I wonder if I do this instead, or I wonder if I do that. And I think that is part of the fun of crafting, really. So we'll bring our base card in. And we're going to just stick this little mat onto there. Okay. And then next up, I've got a little bit of gold mirror card, which again, we've die cut the next size down from. And again, we're going to foam pad this one up just a little bit. So a few foam pads just onto the back of here. And there we go. And we'll just peel the backs off. There we go. Okay, so now the magic part really is going to start and happen. So we're going to pop that to one side, and we've got our lovely Christmas tree 3D embossing folder. So I've got two pieces of card here. I'm going to take the first one and pop this into the folder. So just line that up in your folder like this. Okay, and then we're going to send that through our machine. So the standard plate combination for a 3D embossing folder on the Gemini is your base plate and your plastic shim. But I add in my metal shim into my sandwich because my machine's lost a little bit of pressure over time. So please get to know your machine. Try the standard one first. If that doesn't work, you can then kind of add an extra sheet of card or add your metal shim in. So we've sent that one through. I'm going to grab that one from the other side and open that out and look at the depth and dimension on this. It's an absolutely gorgeous 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to pop that one to one side and I'm going to grab my next one in. And we're going to do exactly the same again. Send that through our machine. That out. Okay, and then next up what we're going to do is we're going to take the tree die that comes with your Christmas tree 3D embossing folder, and that's just going to slot straight over the top like that, and we're going to send that through the machine to cut that out. So I'm going to just use my base plate, my plastic shim and my cutting plate on the top, and then we'll send that through. A little wiggle, and then you've got your perfectly die cut tree ready to mat and layer up. So we're going to pop that to one side. Just pop my die over there. And we're going to grab this one in and we're going to use some of the Champagne Shimmer glitter. So this is like a silvery and gold mix glitter, but not silver and gold mix. It's more like a cooler toned gold, if that makes sense. So we're going to grab our tree in and we're literally just going to add some little, just following the lines of the embossing. We're just going to start to add some glitter onto here. And this is when your glue with your fine tip applicator is really going to come in, because that's going to enable you to get that nice finer line of glue. So you can see how we can just start to add our glitter and glue onto here. I'm trying to be really mindful not to get my head in the camera and also try to do this so I can see to show you. But there's no real technique to this. It's just kind of scribble with your glue and pop the glitter on, which we love. So you can see how just by following those lines on your 3D embossing folder, you can really kind of just get this design nicely built up. And I would do like a little section at a time of the tree and then pop a little bit of glitter on, because otherwise if you're taking a little while to do it, what you can find is that your glue dries and then your glitter won't stick. So just do one little bit at a time. And of course, if you end up where you've got a little gap, it's like when you put the lights on the tree, isn't it? If you end up with a little gap where it looks a little bit bald, you can always go back in and add a little bit more. So what we then have done is taken a little bit of that Dulce de Leche and popped it on the top of the star. And then we've used the bling box. So we've used, the Frosty Christmas has got your Raby pearls in, and we've used, these are from the beautiful bouquets, that goldy kind of colour. So I've just gone on and added those on to look like baubles on the tree. So just kind of, you have got dots on the tree that you can follow if you want to, but just randomly apply your little baubles onto there. And that will then give you this effect here. So you're best off leaving your glue to dry and then putting your baubles on, which is why I've got one that I've already done. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make a little frame for this tree to sit in. So again, we're going to use these Gilded Squares dies. So I'm just going to make sure I've got the right size. I'm just making sure I'm telling you the right sized ones. It's the next one up. We just double check this off camera because I couldn't get them taped down. There we go. Right, so from your set, I've taken the 4th one in and the 6th one in, and that's what we're going to use to make our frame. So I've got a piece of quartz pearl card just over here. Pick that up. And we're going to use these dies to create a frame. So we're going to take the larger one first, and we're going to tape those down. And then we're going to take the smaller one and line that up in the middle. Like this. It's a little bit harder because I'm not stood directly over the top. But that looks about in the middle to me. Oh no, it does. It does from my angle, and when I looked at it on the screen there, I was like, nope, you're miles off. There we go. That looks a bit more central. We'll go with that and see how that one goes. So you want to get those two frames stuck together, okay, and tape them both down onto your card. And then we're going to take those, pop those onto our cutting plate. So again, base plate, plastic shim, your dies, and your cutting plate on the top. And then we're going to send that through. And we'll grab that at the other side and open this out. Give this a little shuffle. And then you can see we've got that beautiful frame that we have created there. So we're going to take that frame and we're going to pop it into our Sparkling Stars 8x8 embossing folder. So we're going to emboss it. So you can kind of pick where you want your starry detail to be as well. So then, because we're using a 2D embossing folder, we're going to use our base plate and cutting plate to now send this back through. And it's up to you. You can either do your embossing first and then die cut it. You will just find that your die cutting will squish your embossing a little bit. Or you can do like I have and emboss afterwards. Okay, so what we're then going to do is you can either use a quickie glue pen for this, or you can use your Dry's Clear PVA glue. Just gone in and traced some of the little stars. So you can just work your way around, applying your glue. Like that. And then you can take your dull Gillette glitter and just sprinkle that over the top. Tap away the excess. So now where that's clung there, that's where my removable tape was. So once your glue's all dry, you can just go in with a paintbrush and tidy that up. Okay. So you can go around and trace your little stars like that. So I've got one that I've done that is already dry. So if we grab this one in, what we're going to do is take this Christmas tree that we've already done, and that's going to sit behind this frame. But your Christmas tree is going to overhang just a little bit. So we want to kind of line it up and mark it where we want to trim this piece down. So I think if I trim it at the top there, so let me grab my little guillotine. We trim a little bit off the top there, like that. So that can then sit about there. And then if I mark that bottom bit with my nail, trim about that off the bottom maybe. Let's have a look. That looks quite good. I'm going to take just a fraction more off the top and a fraction more off the bottom, and I'm also going to take my scissors and just cut a little bit off the corners as well, because then you won't get the corners hanging outside the frame. So let's have a little look and start and get this stuck together. So we'll grab that base card back in, and we're going to take our tree that we've got our weird little corners chopped off there. We're going to just stick this down flat, just in the middle. We're only really utilising this piece for those lovely little stars in the background. There we go. And then we're going to do a double layer of foam pads just on our little frame here. Just off where the excess glitter is. There we go. So then we can take our foam pads, and I'm just going to chop them in half. So I like these foam pads on a roll because they're nice and large, but then you can always kind of chop them down for whatever you need really for your project. So we'll work round, add in our little foam pads just onto there, like that. And then we'll peel the backs off of these. There we go. Just get rid of this little bit of waste here. Okay, and then we're going to go around and put a second layer on. So we're doubling up on that depth. That's going to give it like a nice little shadow box type effect on the project. So just take a few more foam pads and stick these down. Okay, and then we're going to peel the backs. Away from here. Okay. I'm going to pop that to one side. Grab this one in. Okay, and then we're going to hover and just position that frame on top of our card there. Okay, and then we're going to take our Christmas tree and we're just going to overlay that onto the tree design. So I've already popped a double layer of foam pads on this one that was nice and dry. Just using that tree to line it up. Okay, so you can see how lovely that is now looking. So then next up, we're going to create these lovely poinsettias for the corner. So to do that, let me just have a little tidy up to the side here. I've got everything buried with gilded square dies, so let me just move those out of my way. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use one of the printed vellum. Well, we're going to use, we need 3 printed vellum sheets, okay, to create the flowers. And we're going to use this one here that's like the goldy coloured one. So with this vellum, what's cool is, firstly, I always like to chop just a little bit off the top, like that, just so it gives you that little bit of manoeuvrability in the folder. So what we're going to do is take our vellum and just line it up in the folder. And can you see how if you've had these designs from us before in January, we've improved the vellum on the Christmas range? Because what we've done is added that little bit more bleed just around the edge. So if you don't line it up perfectly in your embossing folder, it doesn't really matter too much. So what we're then going to do is take our base plate, our metal shim and our plastic shim. Okay, and send this through. So again, like I say, if you've got, start with the standard plate combination first, so just your base plate and your plastic shim. But then if you need to, you can add your metal shim or a piece of card in. So we'll send that through. Then going to just reveal this, and you can see we've got that beautiful 3D embossing on those poinsettias. Okay, so what you're then going to do is take the poinsettia dies, which I've got here, some low tack tape, which I've got saved here from my other little mats and layers. There we go. So we're then going to take those dies and just line them up over the top, like that. Same with this here. So a bit of tape there and a little bit of tape there. Okay, and then we're going to die cut this out. So we're going to send it through our machine. So I'm just going to use my base plate, my plastic shim and my cutting plate on the top. Okay, and then we're going to send that through. And then we'll grab this when it gets to the other side. And just push our little poinsettias out. There we go. So you can see you've then got those nicely die cut. So what we can then do is we can take our scrap paper again and we're going to go in with that Dulce Gillette glitter, and I'll just do one flower to show you because again you do need to let them dry. So you're going to go in with your Dries Clear PVA glue and we're just going to drag following that line like this, just on the flower. Okay, so we've just got a line down the middle of each petal, and then you can take a little bit of that Dulce Gillette glitter and you can just sprinkle that over the top. And that's then just going to add an extra little bit of sparkle to those poinsettias. So you're going to do 2 large and 3 of the smaller flower. Okay. And then you're also going to take a piece of gold mirror card and you're going to do exactly the same technique. the gold mirror card, so you've got to emboss your poinsettia and then die cut it out. And then we can start to build our poinsettias up. So it kind of depends what shape you want to give the petals. So I just like to maybe give them a little pinch just around the edges. Like this. And then we're going to do the same with the smaller ones. So a little bit of glue just on the back, and then we're going to pop that one in the middle there, and then we're going to do a little bit of 3D glue on the back again, and pop this one just in the middle there, and you can twist them to decide how much like gold you would like to show, like that. And then we're going to do the third layer on the top. So a little bit of glue just on the back, and then we're going to offset that one. And then I've got a Copic marker and some sparklers, because did you know with our sparklers you can colour them with an alcohol pen? So just so they don't look as silvery, I've got a sand Copic marker here. I'm just going to colour those over the top. And these little sparklers are the most beautiful little embellishment for your projects. They're lovely. So we're then going to take a little bit of glue just onto the back of that one there and stick that down. Pop that to one side, and then we're going to do the same with these ones. So just a little bit of glue on the back, give that a squish. There we go. So we'll pop those to one side. So then what I've done next is I've taken the little die, and this is actually from the Christmas Rose 3D embossing folder stamp and die set, but it's beautiful. So it's this little swirl. If I bring it in, it's really nice and fine. So it's lovely for tucking in behind your flowers. So we've die cut 2 of those from some gold mirror card. And we're just going to start to assemble the project now. So again, a bit of glue gel just on the back of these flowers. One there. And one just a little bit further up. And then we're going to take these little kind of twiddly bits. I like to just trim a little bit off the ends. A little bit of glue gel just on the edge. And then you can just tuck those in behind the flowers. Like that. And then to finish this one off, I've taken a little rectangle from our Gilded rectangles stamp and die set. So I've die cut these both from quartz cards, so it's the 2 smallest from the set, and we're just going to stamp and emboss a little season's greetings to go on this project. So what we're going to do is just take our anti-static bag and a clear embossing ink pad. There's my little anti-static, so just give this a little dust over first. There we go. And then we're going to take our clear embossing ink pad and some gold embossing powder. So I'll just grab my gold. So I'm just going to use polished gold super fine, as this is quite a small sentiment, so we want that detail to pick up. So we're going to take our Wow Clear embossing ink pad, ink up our stamp. This is more of like a sticky ink pad than a wet ink pad as well, but it is the one that we do recommend for embossing. And I'm going to just hover and then just press with our little stamp. Then we're going to lift that out, dunk that in our embossing, and we'll heat this up. So just grab my heat tool. There we go. And then we can just use a couple of foam pads just to get this stuck onto our project. Before I do though, I'm going to do that little technique with my pen again. So again, I'm using a Sakura glaze pen. A quickie glue pen would be better, but ours haven't arrived yet. You just have to work quickly with the glaze one, that's all. So just using a little bit of that pen in that little slot, you can just drag that round. Like that, and then we'll pop that to there, and then we'll put that back into the jar, and then we're going to take our foam pads and just layer this up. So pop the foam pad just onto the back of there. Okay, just knocked up the flowers there. This is the thing, isn't it, when your cards still not quite dry. So we're going to pop our little sentiment plaque just up here, little middle, and there we go. And that would then be your finished project. So let me put Christine's in so we can have a little look at the fully finished one. So there we go. So you can see that that is that lovely Christmas tree card there, and that is that one all complete. So as always, all of the products that I've used are available on our website, which is www.chloescreativecards.co.uk. And if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're always posting lots of fabulous tutorials just like this one, so hopefully you'll get some inspiration for your crafting, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye.